All right, let's get right into it. We're looking at a book today that makes an incredibly bold claim. It argues that an ancient prophecy written down in the book of Revelation isn't just about some distant past, but is actually a detailed blueprint for the terrifying way we wage war right now in the modern world.
To really get what this book is saying, you have to start right here. After the absolute horror of World War I, a war that introduced us to things like chemical weapons and bombs dropped from the sky, President Woodrow Wilson said this. It was this beautiful, hopeful idea for a whole generation, that this would be it, the last great conflict.
But, that hope just didn't last. The war to end all wars was followed by World War II and then countless other conflicts all over the globe. The 20th century, instead of being peaceful, turned into the single most violent and deadly period humanity has ever seen. So that brings up a really fascinating question, and it's the whole reason we're digging into this source material today. How on earth could a text that's nearly 2,000 years old have possibly predicted this specific, escalating pattern of human conflict? The book we're examining, called Behold a Red Horse, really kicks off its argument by looking at why that promise of peace failed so spectacularly. And this is the key, right here, this contrast. On the one hand, you've got the grim numbers for World War I, over 15 million dead, the dawn of industrialized killing. But then look at the other side. Instead of peace, what we got was an endless cycle of even bigger, bloodier wars that made the Great War look small. This historical whiplash is basically the launchpad for the book's entire theory. And that theory, that interpretation, zeroes in on a really specific passage from the book of Revelation, and its famous 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So the way the story goes, the final chapter of human history kicks off when a scroll with 7 seals is opened up in heaven, and every time a seal is broken, a new judgment is unleashed on the earth. The first 4 of these are, you guessed it, the 4 horsemen. First up, the first seal is broken, and out comes the white horse. Now, the book we're looking at says this rider isn't some hero. No, this figure is a great deceiver, a kind of false messiah who talks about peace, but is secretly all about conquest. Then we get to the second seal, and this is the absolute heart of the book's argument. This seal unleashes the red horse, and its rider's mission is just terrifyingly specific: to take peace away from the entire earth, causing humanity to, and I quote, kill one another with a great sword. And it makes a grim kind of sense, doesn't it? After war comes the third seal, the black horse. This rider brings widespread famine and total economic chaos. The book paints a picture of a world where a whole day's wages can barely get you a single loaf of bread. And then the fourth seal, the pale horse. And there's really no metaphor here. The rider's name is literally death, with hell right behind him. He's given power over a quarter of the planet, using all the tools of the horsemen before him: war, hunger, and disease. Okay, so this is the absolute core of the book's entire argument. It's claiming the red horse isn't just a symbol for war in general, like ancient battles with swords and shields. No, it represents a very specific type of conflict, one that is global, that constantly escalates with technology, and that eventually removes all real hope of lasting peace from the whole world. So how in the world does an ancient symbol like that connect to today's military? Well, the book draws a straight line from old-school strategy to the new, often invisible battlefields of today. For most of history, war was studied by thinkers like Sun Tzu and Clausewitz. It was about things you could see: strategy, terrain, the morale of your troops. Even in the 20th century, guys like Richardson and Kahn were using math to analyze it. But it was still, at its heart, a human thing. And this picture just perfectly captures the change. We've gone from swords and muskets to this, the Sword Dragon drone. There's no pilot in it. It's being flown by someone who could be thousands of miles away. According to the book, this isn't just a small step forward, it's a total reinvention of what it even means to fight a war. And the book says this is only the beginning. The new arms race isn't about who has more tanks or planes. It's about completely rewriting the rules of the game. We're talking about genetically enhanced super soldiers, AI that makes kill decisions on its own, and entire wars fought silently over computer networks. But out of all these new, scary threats, the book points to one in particular as having the unique power to fulfill that Red Horse mission, to take peace from the earth, with a single blow. Just think about this for a second. What if one single weapon, without leveling a city, could instantly shut down an entire continent, wiping out its power grid, its communications, everything? The book says that weapon is very, very real. It's called an electromagnetic pulse, or an EMP. As the source material breaks it down, if you detonate a nuclear weapon way up in the atmosphere, it unleashes this massive wave of energy that just fries electronics on the ground. And this isn't sci-fi. Back in 1962, the Starfish Prime test over the Pacific did just that, knocking out streetlights in Hawaii almost 900 miles away. And this might be the most chilling number in the whole book. A U.S. Congressional Commission studied this exact threat, and their conclusion: within just 1 year of a nationwide blackout from an EMP attack, up to 90% of the U.S. population could die from starvation, disease, and the total collapse of society. And all of this leads us to the book's final, ultimate conclusion, where it ties our modern technological weakness directly back to that ancient warning. The author brings up this specific verse from the Gospel of Matthew. The argument is simple. For almost all of human history, it was basically impossible to wipe out all flesh. You couldn't do it with swords, you couldn't do it with cannons. But now, between our nuclear weapons and these catastrophic vulnerabilities like an EMP, for the first time ever, we can actually bring about our own total annihilation. So, to wrap up the book's whole point of view, the rise of this total technology-fueled warfare, the very real possibility of global self-destruction, and the loss of any chance for lasting peace, these aren't just random modern problems. From the book's perspective, they are the literal fulfillment of the Red Horse prophecy and the start of what the Bible calls the Great Tribulation. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. Now, the book we've just gone through presents one very specific theological way of looking at all this. But if we set that aside for a moment, it still makes you ask, are all these escalating conflicts and existential threats we face just a chaotic, meaningless series of events? Or is there maybe a deeper, more predictable pattern to the way human history is unfolding that we just haven't recognized yet?